My guest today is a self-made man with a Cinderella story. Throw out all the misconceptions about stoic bankers, 'cause he ain't nothing like the bankers I've ever met. Yes, he looks good in a suit, but his success story begins in the beauty parlor. Meet Mr. Arlo Washington, founder, CEO, and president of People Trust Loan Fund, a nonprofit that helps small businesses in low-end communities. Arlo grew up watching his mother, a beautician, service her community not just by washing, cutting, and braiding hair, but also by listening, mentoring, and supporting her clients in an emotional way that was important. Arlo was drawn to the profession. After a mere 2 years in the business of barbering, he launched his own shop, grew the ongoing concern to 4 locations employing 27 people. Never one to rest on his laurels, young Arlo founded Washington Barber College, where his listening skills paid off in a monetary and caring way. As an employer, Mr. Washington heard and learned firsthand what the term unbanked meant. As an employer, Mr. Washington heard and learned firsthand what the term unbanked meant, and how the lack of financial literacy and access to affordable credit was crippling too many impoverished people in the neighborhoods he grew up in. With the help of the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, Mr. Washington founded the People Trust Loan Fund. To date, he has awarded over 2,000 small loans for, of course, business startups, but also for non-traditional help, things you might take for granted, like transportation, child care, housing, and emergency expenses. It is my pleasure to welcome to the table the visionary and caring self-made financier, and entrepreneur, Mr. Arlo Washington.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I got to tell our listeners how I know you, and I just met you. It's nice to meet you.
Likewise.
But I got to tell our listeners that my husband, you bought a flagpole for your bank.
Absolutely.
Is it a bank?
It is. Well, you know what? It's not a bank.
Mm-hmm.
It's a loan fund. So we are a community development financial institution. So we are a financial institution. We look like a bank, but we don't take deposits. So that makes the difference between bank and loan fund. And loan funds were created in direct response to the community Civil Rights Act of 1964, 77, and I was born in 77 actually. But out of that, there was CRA, which is Community Reinvestment Act. And then in Bill Clinton and Al Gore in 1994 established the RIGO Community Development Act, which established the CDFI Fund, which certifies CDFIs nationwide. So we are
CDFI stands for
Community Development Financial Institution. So that's how because we do loans and we provide financial services, then people immediately associate community development financial institution with a traditional bank.
Yeah, they lump you in there, but you're not traditional.
No.
So I met you, or actually I've come to meet you because
Yes.
you met my husband because he bought a flagpole for your financial institution. And when he came home, he just could not quit bragging about you and what a nice
Really?
guy. And then y'all gotten to know each
Yeah, we
other.
have. Grady, absolutely.
Yeah, y'all gotten to
love-
know each
love
other.
Grady.
Thank you. So he
Yeah.
said, I think you really need to interview Arlo.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your life and growing up.
Okay.
You grew up in Highland Court, North Little Rock?
Well, Highland Court actually is on 12th Street, which is in the 12th Street core, and kind of close to the Central High School area. Now in
Is it close to the zoo?
yeah, right across the street from where War Memorial Stadium and the zoo.
Okay, that's Highland Court.
Yeah, Highland Court. It's Madison Heights now.
Oh, okay.
And so I lived there. I grew up in that neighborhood when I was born. Matter of fact, I was just driving through the other day, and we passed a house. My grandmother had 16 children, and so she had she.
Are y'all Catholic, or she just doesn't believe in, or she just didn't have access to birth control?
This is back in the days, when they were having baby factories. But,
I'm telling you.
But so my mother had me when she was 16, and so when she brought me home, my grandmother, told her, she had to. It was too many people in the house. So she dropped out of school. She's in 10th grade. Thank God she didn't abort me, but she dropped out of school in 10th grade. And my grandmother, told her she would have to take care of her son now. And so she got her an apartment, and it was in Highland Court. It was right there on, it's right on 12th Street, so it's right around the corner from where my grandmother lived. She was on Pine Street, so it was 16th and Pine, if I remember correctly. I was a baby, so, you know. But anyways, I grew up there. But
describe your neighborhood.
My neighborhood was a low-income housing project.
Talk about generational poverty.
Generational
you talk
poverty.
a lot about that.
Yeah. Generational poverty is, of course, poverty that's passed down from generation to generation. It's a mentality. It's a mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mentality that's passed down from generation to generation. If you think about, a lot of the reason the Civil Rights, Act came about was so that people would get, equal rights with finances, financial products, services, things of that nature, affordable housing, and there was just needing to be some laws in place to kind of help make sure that there was equity. And so, my family experienced generational poverty. Grew up single parent home, and I didn't know any different because that's just all I knew. And as I got older and started to look around and started saying, hey, it looks different in my neighborhood versus if I go to where, for example, where my dad lived. I had two great parents. They were never married, but two good people, and they're both deceased today.
But where did your dad live?
Well, he lived off in John Barrow community. So, but it looked different than back then. It looked a lot different than if I was on 12th Street, in Highland Court, we moved around quite a bit. So I lived all over Central Arkansas. We lived in the South End. We lived in the East End.
So your mother's profession?
Her profession, she was a professional student for a while, and then but she started off doing phlebotomy. So after she got out,
what's that?
Well, drawing blood at St. Vincent. She was working at St. Vincent drawing blood.
I thought she was a beautician.
Well, she braided hair as a side hustle.
Oh,
so she had a side hustle, and she braided hair. The neighborhood family members would all come to her, and she would braid their hair.
What was it about that you liked?
Well, I just liked the the personal touch. It was always great conversations and just if there was some issues that somebody needed to vent and talk, then she would be a ear to listen to them or a shoulder to cry on, and because it took about the type of braids she did would take about anywhere from 6 to 8 hours to do. So they'd be there, sitting there getting braids and talking and sharing relationship stories or maybe hardships they were having, with their finances or housing arrangement, things of that nature. So I got a chance to see a lot of that.
She died early, didn't she? How
she
old were
died.
you?
I was 17 when my mother passed away, and it was 2 and a half years after she graduated from Philander Smith College. She was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and they didn't have all the technology that they have today with that. And it was, matter of fact, car tie was just being started whenever she was going through that, and so she passed away. Of course, that was part of my heart ripped out, because I was a single child for 9 years, and then had my sister Joy, which is 11, and then my sister Tara.
Who took care of them?
My aunt. When my mother passed away, my aunt took care of them.
Did you go live with your aunt?
No,
your aunt?
I didn't. I was very independent and really set on making a success and doing something with my life.
Did you spend a lot of time in church?
I did.
Did your mother spend a lot of time in
She
church?
She did. She taught me to pray at an early age.
I read something where you said when your mother said, you were asking her why she did hair.
Yeah.
And she said, when God blesses you, you bless others.
Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right.
So where'd you go to college, or did you?
Well, I went to college for a year out of high school to UAPB, University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and then went there for a semester, and then I figured I'd come close to home, so I went to ULR for a little while, and then I decided I wanted to move to New York and become a supermodel.
What?
Yeah.
Told you he's got game.
The
dream.
I did.
Yeah, right.
I did. So I left. I took I was working at Lens Crafters on Park Plaza Mall. Transferred my job to the Mall of Manhattan, and I had a old Mustang, a '68 Mustang. I sold it for about $1,300. Took the $1,000, moved to New York, and I rented a room from my brother's girlfriend's aunt. And $75 a week.
And she let you?
Yeah, she let me. She was an older lady, and very nice, and I learned a lot from her. And but
that's
so I
nice.
went and went to Bushwick in Brooklyn, New York, and that
Why'd
was
you
a
come
big
home?
shell shock. Well, I wanted to come home because again, my mother passed when I was 17, and she asked me what I wanted to do with my life, and I told her I wanted to be a coach because I had dreams of making it to the NBA as well, but didn't get tall enough, and I started late, so I didn't make the cut. But so
You watched the playoffs last night?
I did. Yeah, I did, and that was a man. But I'm a Golden State Warrior fan, so it's all good.
Yeah.
My son, he likes the Celtics, so we were kind of.
Oh, that's
he
fun.
was long-faced,
Oh, that's
but,
fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. So what did you do when you were, tell the story about when you started working for Mr. Roy.
Mr. Roy. Okay, so Royale's Barbershop. Royale's Barbershop. When I was a kid, I used to go to Mr. Royale's Barbershop, which was on, what was that, Broadway. It was on Broadway Street. And I used to go in there and sweep hair to earn a haircut. You know what I mean? Because we couldn't afford to get haircuts every week, but I would go over there because my cousin, he would go all the time to get his haircut. So I just was tag along, and when I go there, I'd sweep up around the shop to earn enough to get me a haircut as well. And so Mr. Roy was generous and allowed me to be able to do that. And I would sit there, all day. It was very fun hearing Mr. Roy crack jokes, and he was a very colorful guy and how he did it. And he always pulled out a big wad of money whenever he was giving people change. And I said, man, Mr. Roy, and he wore a doctor's jacket. I said, man, his barber thing is pretty exciting. And I just say, hearing stories, community members sharing and things of that nature, I always,
Is that when
piqued my
you
interest.
decided?
Well, I decided when I was sitting there in the barbershop waiting on a haircut, and I had waited all day long, and I was up next, and the gentleman came through the door in a rush, and he said he said he would pay for my haircut, and he would give me $30 on top of it, because he needed to get to where
If you'd let him take your
if I let him take my spot. So of course I let him take the spot.
Yeah.
And it changed my life because I'll never forget it, because at the time I was like, man, it was $30 was lots of money. Mm-hmm. And so he gave me the $30. He went in front of me, and I ended up. But at that point I said, barbering is the way I want to go.
But you went off to New York before you did it.
I did. I went to New York before I did it because I didn't know anything about barber colleges at the time. I didn't know that there was a barber school that you could go to. So I just thought, I didn't know how you did it. So, but and then I was intrigued with the modeling profession, and I wanted to be overnight success. Uh-huh. But and so that's what I figured I had to go to where that was at, and that was in New York. And I did get a chance to do some modeling, but working at Lens Crafters, because I transferred my job there, I couldn't go season castings. And so I was like, man, I didn't really, come here to just do this. I want to get into the field, modeling field, and really, go ahead and get it going. And so I ended up coming back home to Arkansas to get my barber license, found out about New Tyler Barber College, where I would go to school, and went there for a year with it on my mind to go back to New York to, continue pursuing the modeling career. And I would just use barbering to support me as I was doing that.
So you are 19.
I'm 19 years old.
You're cutting hair.
I'm cutting hair.
And you'd say, well, I think I'll just start my own barbershop.
Well,
how did that happen?
Well, what happened is I ended up coming back home because I was in New York, and I made it, went through some tough times, experienced being homeless for about 4 weeks, sleeping in the barbershop and things of that nature. And that happened because when you came back to Arkansas? When I came back to Arkansas, my room was already gone.
Don't you have family?
Well, I didn't have any family there.
In Arkansas?
I have family in Arkansas.
Oh, you were in New York.
I was in New York.
Oh, I'm sorry, misunderstood.
So I came back because this all happened within a 2 year and a half, 2 year span. Okay, so when I came back, I came back and moved my aunt. She lived in the 12th Street community as well, and or the 12th Street core, and she had a back room. I lived with her for about maybe 3 months, long enough for me to get in the barbershop and get some clientele and get on my feet. And I had a friend of mine which had a Flawless hair studio. Chio Clark had a barbershop. We grew up together. So, I went to his barbershop, and I was his barber. So he was, was like, hey, you should come and work at my shop. Well, his shop was right there it's a laundromat now on 12th Street, but it was right there in that laundromat. And I had learned so much when I was in New York, how to use a straight razor and things of that nature, and a lot of techniques that, wasn't happening here. And so when I introduced those skill sets here in this market, it really blew up, and I made a name for myself really quickly. And 2 years later, I just, I was like, I had decided to go back to college. I was like, well, I told my mom I was going to be a coach, so I need to go and get that. And then when you're young, you're trying to find your way and really build a foundation for yourself. So you're trying things.
You tried a lot.
Yeah,
Coaching, modeling,
barbering.
Yeah.
Right. Serial entrepreneur.
All in the course of like 2 years.
Yeah. So went to
Slow down, Arlo. Slow down.
I enrolled in ULR, and didn't know anything about starting a business. Didn't have a big savings account. Yeah, tried it again. Didn't have a big savings account or anything. Didn't know anything. I was unbanked at the time.
I love that term.
And so they have this thing, financial aid, when you're in school, and you can get a Pell Grant, you can get a student loan.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only loan that I knew, because that's all I had seen my mom get in school was direct loans through her college.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that's the only place you go for a loan. You think about going to a bank for a loan. And my mother was unbanked as well. She kept her money under her mattress. So it's and so that's how I understand unbanked, that mentality.
Did you make that up? That word, unbanked?
No, I didn't make it up.
Because when I'm have you heard that?
I was going to say, I have never heard it before.
So that's because we are banked.
Yeah.
If you
Right,
were
yeah.
unbanked and you lived where Arlo lived, you would know that word. And so when I'm reading about Arlo, he keeps talking about the unbanked. And I'm like, we got to tell people what that means.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unbanked means
you don't have your money in a bank.
You don't have your money in a bank.
You don't even know how to use a bank.
You don't even know how to use a bank. You don't even think about.
It's a cash life.
Exactly.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's a whole different lifestyle. And it actually costs more to be unbanked than it does to be banked.
Sure.
Yeah. So because we did a study where we went into banks, and we went to try and open up accounts. Went to grocery stores to try and get a money order. Just simple financial transactions. Are expensive, and not only that, you think about the gas. Prices of driving around to different places.
And time is money.
The long lines when you're waiting.
Time is money, and
Absolutely.
fees.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're cutting hair. You start your own business. Who's the other person you started business with? Another Washington.
No.
It's just you.
It's just me. So I got a student loan, $1750. I still remember.
Who's Debony?
Debbie's my wife.
Oh, it's
yeah,
just
we got married. I'm getting to it.
Okay.
So because we met, through the barbershop as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I met my wife at the barbershop
Okay.
because I cut her. It's a small community. I cut her cousin's hair, and he introduced me to his cousin, and that's how we met. And I'd been cutting his hair for about
I got to interrupt here. What
4
is your
years.
special technique that you do with the razors?
Oh, the razor.
What's the special technique that
So
you brought back here that everybody
so the
loves?
hairline, the razor line. So you can take a razor, get a hot lather shave with it. You can shave your bald head, or you can get a line. And so just really a real defined, defined line when you can see it's like somebody drew it on your head.
That's you?
Yeah.
You started that?
Yeah, I did.
I know
I
it.
did.
Tim used to get that.
Yeah.
A friend of mine.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
go
so
ahead.
and so now I can't. I didn't patent out anything like
Oh, yeah,
that.
everybody's
But I
doing
mean
it
everybody's
now.
doing it now.
Well, that's the highest compliments to be copied.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. I'm glad that I could be a good influence.
Okay, so now you're at school.
So now no,
Borrowing money
actually,
from
actually
school.
I borrow money from I got a student direct loan. I use that money. I'm walking down the sidewalk, and I'm like, man, this is more money than I have had at one time. I need to do something with this. If I want to build a foundation, then I need to do something with this. I need to invest it some kind of way. And I was thinking, well, I'm already cutting hair. I might as well just and one of my customers, your customers are great. My customer told me, he said, you got all the stuff you're doing, all the stuff. He said, why don't you just expand what you're already doing? You already got clientele. You got me coming and getting my haircut. You got all these folks loving your haircuts. Why don't you just expand what you're doing? And I said, well, then the light bulb went off, and I was like, well, that's what I'll do. And, expanding is, going from working at a barbershop to now starting your own barbershop and employing others.
So you went to City Hall and got a permit?
I went to City Hall, got a permit, went through that whole process, learned about getting a business license, learned about going to the Secretary of State, getting incorporated and things of that nature. I was just kind of
found a location.
Found a location. I could afford the location. I took the $1,700 and, I was able to put $450 down on a deposit at the time. That was 2000 and 2000. We're in 2022 now.
How'd you buy a barber chair?
Well, somebody loaned me the barber chair. I had a guy that I know somebody that knows somebody, and then they loaned me. They knew I was opening up a barber shop, so they said, "Hey, I'll loan you the barber chair. You just pay me when you make the money."
What about those wash sink?
The shampoo bowls. I bought it on secondary market for $50.
How many people were with your store when you opened the door?
Just me.
And then you grew it to 4 locations.
I grew it to 4 locations.
How long did that take?
Over a 2-year period.
You grew 4 locations over a 2-year period.
Mm-hmm.
27 employees.
Maybe 3. Let's say 3 years.
So you took the loan that the government gave you for school.
Yes.
And that was okay? They never followed up on you on that?
Well, the thing is, it's for educational purposes, and at the time, but and they applied whatever I had to my tuition, but then the overage is for your living expense.
The overage.
And my living expense was, for me to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, if I, I
That
could
makes
either go
sense.
to Kroger and pay it all up at the grocery store, I could invest it in the business and eat for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what us entrepreneurs
So I leveraged
do.
it.
We
I leveraged
Yeah.
it.
So I put a loan on my house.
Yeah.
Pay my house off. The money I got or pay the loan. The money I get extra that I get
Yes.
out of my house, I start a business on.
There you go.
That's the same thing. So
Exactly.
he took the loan. The only loan he could qualify for.
Yeah, I wouldn't qualify.
Part
to
of
bank.
it
I didn't have credit score.
paid for.
Yeah.
Paid
right.
for his
School.
school, and then the other part that he
used to start
used to
business.
Yeah.
parlay into a business. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
It's awesome.
You didn't take that and go out and get your nails done and
get a whole
buy
living room set
and get a living room set.
Yeah, I didn't do none of that.
I know people that do that.
No, I needed to stretch it.
No, I'm not going to mention any names.
Yeah, good. Good.
Don't
That's
do
good.
it. Don't
Yeah.
mention it. Please don't.
Please.
So, when I think about barbers and the community
Yeah.
and how important they are to the black community.
Oh, yeah.
And do you think it's a safe place for black men to talk about mental health?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because they have an opportunity to, if I cut your hair, you trust me. You don't let anybody. I mean, look how pretty your hair is. You don't let anybody just do your hair. You
are so right about that.
Yeah, we could go a whole extra 30 minutes of this interview just about that.
Yeah, I mean, and then a good barber is like a needle in a haystack. When you find them, you hold on to them and build that relationship. So that profession is all about relationships. And so, yes, absolutely, mental health is. I've provided counseling and therapy to.
And so many of them are. You get to pass on to people who have just been incarcerated. They've just gotten out.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they have that. What did you call it?
PTSD or.
Yeah, PTSD for sure from being in jail,
Absolutely.
and then that legacy of hopelessness.
Oh, absolutely.
That comes from generations.
Generational poverty, things of that nature that they,
And you have to kind of lift them up, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Well, you take a little bit off on the outside to make them feel good on the inside.
Arlo, I asked you before the thing, where does it come from?
Well, it came from.
You were like, what's come from?
Yeah, no.
It's like that ambition. Where does it come from?
My mom, I saw her. I watched her sit up all night studying and had a goal on her mind to complete, college, get her degree in social work. And then I watched her, go from receiving funding from, monthly checks and food stamps from the Department of Human Services, to working at the Department of Human Services. So there was an article where it said, welfare mom works her way to the other side of the desk. And in that article, it mentions me in the article. I was 16 at the time when they did the article. And so, watching all of that and seeing her going to her graduation, it gave me some motivation to, shoot for the stars. Say if you shoot for the moon, you'll land among the stars.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I always, aimed high and, had a lot of hope.
So you're an inspiration to people who don't have a mother like that, I would think.
I'm sure, because my mother was a mother to a lot of folks.
Was she?
Oh yeah, she would pick up foster kids and in the middle of the night, and bring them to the house and do their hair and get them take care of them, just let them feel some love. But I watched that as well. So the social work aspect of it really, impacted me and really helped me to look at, not just myself, but look at others as well.
When I think of two adjectives for you, I think of ambitious and compassionate. And those together are great. You're welcome. So let's talk about, so before the break we talked about your 2 years, 18 and 19, where you did like 20
Lots
jobs.
going on.
Lot going on.
Lot of stuff
And
going on.
but now you're cutting hair. You started your own business,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden the idea for Washington Barber College comes about. Tell us how that happened.
Okay, so in opening these barbershops, we had to staff these barbershops, right? So whenever students were graduating barber college, then I'd have to show them how to use the razor like we use it, because we wanted our product to be the same, and we wanted everything, the name of the barbershop, we wanted everything to, it was Blessed Fades Barbershop at the time.
I thought it was Washington.
Well, Washington Barber College. The
Washington
barbershop was Blessed Fades Barbershop.
Oh, I love that name.
Say it again.
Blessed Fades. Yeah, it was Blessed Fades, because I'm blessed.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it fades.
And it fades. Yes, these are Blessed Fades.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
and so we wanted that to be, we wanted everybody. So we trained. So we had to spend time training, talking to them, teaching them how to, technical assistance. I was providing technical assistance before I knew what technical assistance was, as well as financial education before I knew what financial education was. Just as a barber, though, how you manage your money. Hey, if you make $100, put back $50 so that on your rainy days when it's not real busy, you don't have to. You can go on your rainy day fund. And you don't have to worry about, hey, I didn't cut that many hairs a day. You'd be able to be sustainable. And so we would teach these skills. And just spend a lot of time, if they came through the door and they, couldn't cut as good, then we would work with them and send them, all the little kids. And so,
it's more than just barber techniques.
Yeah. So that I'm like, hey, we're training them. We may as well have a barber college and train them on the front end so that we could, train them and place them. Because now we farming our own barbers.
So where'd you get the funding for that?
So my landlord at the time, Mark Carter, and if he hears this, hey, thanks, Mark. You big inspiration. He's my landlord. I was leasing from him.
You don't have a family to go get money from, which is the way most people start a small business.
I don't. I didn't have a rich uncle or anybody to help me with my dream. That was my dream. So it's like, yeah, that's what you want to do,
So your landlord. So you're
my landlord. So my landlord, he really believed in what I was doing, and he saw how I was really building the business and how clean I ran the business. And then, there was a building that came available on 65th Street, and I tried to go to the bank and get funding to purchase the building, or, because the building was for sale. It wasn't for lease, for sale.
Oh, you're going to jump all the way in.
Yeah. So I was like, well, hey, but this building is a great location, has its own park and everything. So I told him about it, and he's a real estate investor. I knew he was a real estate investor. So I said, hey, Mark, I've been leasing from him for, ever since I started. And he was like, well, he actually went and bought the building and then allowed me to buy it from him.
I love Mark.
Yeah. Me too. Mark. Yeah, he
So you have two programs, the barber program, 1,500 hours, and then the barber instructor program.
Yes.
Where you teach people to teach barbering.
Yes.
Is your Washington Barber College still functioning?
Still going 15 years strong.
Good. How about your other shops?
No, they're not.
Any of them?
No, they're not. We have one barbershop right now. It's Ivy League Barbershop, and that's located on 200 North Bowman Road, across from. It's right next door to Lazy Pete's, Instant Imprints, Fulin's. It's in that shopping center.
So if you want to go to. If you want to become a barber today, you can go to Washington Barber College. But what are the requirements? You got to have a high school diploma.
You have high school diploma or GED.
Okay.
You have to have ID card, Social Security card.
Sure.
You have to.
Do you provide financial aid?
We do. We offer financial aid to those who qualify. We've been offering financial aid since 2012.
How many people do you usually have enrolled at a time?
Anywhere in a year, we run about 75 to 100 students through.
Really? And when I was reading about it and looked at your curriculum, it's more than just barber techniques. It's life skills.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell the story about how the man that came in and you gave him his first check.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we had student, and this is what gave us the idea, to do, because People Trust was actually just a social organization, nonprofit, that was providing free haircuts to homeless individuals, because the homeless individuals would give the students an opportunity to cut different textures of hair, black, white, straight, curly, coarse, fine, medium, all that, and so that gave us a good diversity, and it also helped the students to do some community as well, to see that there were people out there that were less fortunate. So we would go and pick up these individuals from Jericho Way, River City, different homeless shelters, bring them to the college, provide them with sack lunches, provide them with free haircuts, and then take them back. And that helped out a lot. And then we had a student offering financial aid. You have to provide them with financial education before they actually sign on the dotted line. You tell them what a loan is and that they have to pay it back, so you want to manage the default rate.
Right.
And so we had a student come in, and he's re-entry. He's about 30, 32, 33 years old at the time. And he had a refund check like I had when I got the $1,750 from ULR way back in the days. He had an overage. And so we cut the check for the overage, and he asked us, okay, what do I do with this?
Had a check with the name on it.
Check his name on it.
30 years old.
30 years old, about 32, 33 at the time. Totally unbanked, never been in a bank, never dealt with a bank. And he was like, what do I do with this? And he was afraid to go in the bank. So I had to go with him to the bank, walk him in there, introduce him to the bank teller, help him open up his account, and from that point on, we were saying, hey, you know what? We don't want to produce barbers that go out and they're not able to be sustainable because they don't have the tools that they need to be, the financial capacity to be able to grow their business. And so that's when we said, we need to really focus on financial education and making sure that they understand and have those tools, and then we noticed that there's just a huge need. Most of the students that qualify for financial aid, are low income or come from, generational poverty, things of that nature. So, that opened the door up to us providing financial services.
How many people do you think are unbanked?
Well, we've done research and studies on that. I think it's about 65,000 in Arkansas, which is about the size of the city of Conway.
Whew. That's crazy. I know. You just don't have any idea. Yeah. I don't anyway.
Yeah.
You're living in a bubble, Gray.
Well, seriously. I mean,
right.
I've had a bank account because you took me to the bank at 16, and I've had the same bank account and known how to open other ones ever since.
Right.
Right. But it's just but I never learned it in school. They don't,
They don't teach it in school. That's a good point.
Yeah.
They don't teach financial education in school. They don't teach it at church. Don't teach it at home a lot of times.
Well, not everybody has a home with
everybody has a
home.
You're
again,
right.
generational poverty. If you didn't learn from my father opened a bank account for me when I was 16.
Yeah. There you go. So
and I did it to my kids.
There you go. But had he not done that, then you wouldn't have known to do it to your kids. So it's a lot of.
So when did the idea to open up the People's Trust loan start? Is this when it happened?
In 2014, one of my administrators, Artina Blackman, and myself, we decided we formed a board. We changed the bylaws to financial institution to provide financial services. So we went from an organization providing free haircuts and sack lunches to a financial institution in 2014. So like I said, we started at that point tracking the loans that we're doing. So in 2009, we didn't know in 2009, here's the deal. 2009, Arkansas became a credit desert because payday lending was prohibited. The law, the state put a usury rate cap on at 17%. At the time, there were 234 brick and mortar payday lenders operating within the state, over 200,000 Arkansans utilizing these services. And so when that law happened, it take all the payday lenders left the state. But
is that a good or bad thing? Because they thought they were sharks.
Well, they are.
Predatory.
It is predatory in nature. They're predatory in nature.
But what happens to all those people that are unbanked?
Right. They have nowhere else to go. And if they can't qualify at a bank, they have to have an alternative. They have to have an alternative option.
And to qualify at a bank, you have to have
they sink deeper into poverty.
Yeah. Or to qualify to bank, you have to have a minimum amount to put in the.
Well, yeah, you have to have, because banks are regulated institutions. You're required to have a credit score. Credit criteria is considered in your application process. You have to have some collateral. You have to have some assets.
You can open a bank account with $100, can't you?
Some places you can. Some places you can open an account, but then you have to maintain that $100, or
That's
else
right.
if you don't, then the service fees and other fees that go along with maintaining an account sometimes.
So are you happy or sad
cause your
about
account to
getting
go
rid of
into
the
the negative.
payday?
You know what? I'm happy about it, but I just wish that there would have been an alternative to come along with that. If you take away,
Wasn't done with any solutions.
Yeah. I mean, you take away access to capital and credit when you're not going to provide it. Mm-hmm. So you get rid of the sharks, the predatory lenders, which prey on low income communities and unbanked populations. But then you didn't come back with a safer, more affordable, more flexible alternative. So that's my. But I guess it was for us. That's how we emerged out of that unmet need, because with Barber Colleges in the low and moderate income community, we service these customers, been servicing them. We've been an anchor institution.
So
they start coming to us for loans.
That's what I was going to say. So your barber shop said, okay, we'll start cashing your checks.
No, we didn't cash checks right off. We just provided small loans.
You just said we'll start providing
small dollar loans.
Well, how do you collect on those loans?
Well, at the time, we're sophisticated now a little bit, but at the time it was just old school. Hey, you're gonna, character loans. You're gonna, you need to borrow this money until you can pay it back. You can pay it back in 30 days or whatever the case may be. They would borrow the $250 at the time because I was funding it out of my pocket, so we didn't have any. We didn't.
Did they work for you?
Well, they weren't profitable because our rates and terms,
No, I mean with the people that you loaned the money to. Were they working for you?
No. I
mean, Arkansas Flag and Banner loans money to its employees, but we don't loan money to anybody else.
Yeah, well, these were community members that patronize our barber college. That got their haircut. We provide $5 haircuts. So these same folks would come in and they lose a job, or they needing access to capital. They would come in and say, "Hey, Mr. Washington, man, I'm sorry to come to you with this, but man, I'm really in need right now. Is there any way I can borrow, $100 until I get paid or?"
Did you ever get burned?
No, not initially, because it was a trust code. It was like, hey, I'm gonna do this for you, but I need you to come back and pay me back. I ain't gonna do it no more.
Yeah, you said character loan.
Yeah,
I like
it
that
was a
phrase.
It was a character loan. Old school character loan. So
That's my first loan.
Yeah.
My first loans, they called them signature loans, but it was just, you're a nice person.
Right.
Here's $1,000.
We talk about
these
it all
folks
the
are
time.
working. They're working and they trying.
And so when did you decide to go from loaning character loans out of your barber college to there's something here?
Well, as the demand began to grow, because after a year of doing that, we started people telling people, word of mouth started going around, and now we got people telling their family members and people showing up, and I'm like, hey, we need to look at if there's some programs out there with the government to
Were you
help us.
charging interest?
Yeah, 5%. But I mean, that wasn't profitable. It wasn't sustainable. It wasn't even scalable. So, it was just some social good. And I mean, it did what it did. It helped us to build a track record though of lending, and that's how we were able to apply to the United States Treasury CDFI fund to become a CDFI.
So so now you've started.
Yep.
People Trust Loan Fund, which you explained at the beginning of the show is not really a bank because you don't take deposits, you give money away, and it's called
we loan money.
You loan money,
Yeah.
and it has
occasionally we give money. Occasionally we get grant funding and we can do grants, but we're in the loan business.
Oh, so okay, not very many grants.
Not very many grants. Occasionally we'll have some philanthropic organizations like Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation or Arkansas Community Foundation, or national organizations that would give grant funding, and we can pass those grants on to community members.
So is Winthrop Rockefeller completely associated with you, or are you independent from them? Because I saw
we're independent from them. We are partners.
But they are one of the people that funds grants through your services.
Well, during the pandemic when grant funding was really needed, the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation provided grants for us to be able to help community members.
How did you get hooked up with them?
Oh wow! You know what? Our relationship started in 2016, and conversations and meetings and talks, and really seeing how we could work together. And it really.
When did you start the fund?
We started the fund in 2014.
And then you met Winthrop in
2016.
You weren't cutting his hair, were you?
No. No.
That would be hilarious.
No, I wasn't.
So you started in 2014.
Yep.
How were you smart enough to start something like this? I don't think I could.
Well, I mean,
it's a lot of paper reading. You're not a lawyer.
Well, I'm not a lawyer.
Are you a graduate of college?
I didn't graduate college.
See how I
didn't
say
graduate
kids
college.
don't go to college. Just don't go to college. Just work.
Don't listen to my mother.
Experience
kids.
is the best teacher, and it's a lived experience. And so, having lived in that experience, I understand what the credit needs are, and then also, so we emerged. We truly emerged out of an unmet credit need here in Central Arkansas.
Truly.
Yeah, we emerged, and so when you emerge, then you learn as you go. You build a plane while you're flying it.
Oh, my mother used to say, I jump off buildings and I build my wings on the way down.
There you go.
Arlo and I are like kindred souls.
It's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of technical reading, right?
Oh yes. I spent hours.
So who did you go to?
Well, because I was so into trying to have a solution to solve a common problem. Mm-hmm. I would just read articles. I read up. I joined organizations, other CDFI organizations. There were a lot of knowledge sharing. I went to conferences in Washington, D.C.
How'd you even know about CDFI? I didn't know about any of that
well,
until today.
I had an uncle that worked as a security guard at a CDFI in Chicago.
Oh, serendipity.
And so when he came here and saw what I was doing at Barber College, then he said, hey, you should look at becoming a CDFI because, you're fulfilling their mission. And I was like, man, I'm already, regulated with the Department of Education and, being a Title IV school and I don't really want to deal with any more, agencies. Nothing negative, but I just don't want the compliance and regulatory requirements of maintaining that certification or status. And so a couple years went by. I was working with a local state representative and some other community members that were interested in having a financial institution. We were all trying to organize and trying to figure out how we could, do this. And then, it kind of just was left with me and, my one administrator and our board that we had at the time.
Was there anybody else doing it in Arkansas? Was there another CDFI?
There are 19 CDFIs in the state. 15 of them are banks and credit unions. So, and then you have Arkansas Capital Corporation. You have Communities Unlimited. You have Forge. You have, and People Trust.
So why was yours going to be different?
Well, we're the only minority.
That's what I was going to say.
CDFI.
You're the only one that's really down in the trenches that understands what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I won't say that because they've all been doing this work, just different types.
I was going to say yours is community specific.
Yeah, it's just more community based.
And you don't have a financial degree?
I don't have a financial degree, but I learned how to count money. And if you're going to be a good barber, you got to be accountable, responsible, and dependable. And so I learned accountability a long time ago in building a business. And I've been an entrepreneur for the last 22 years. So
How old are you?
I'm 44.
You look young.
22.
I don't look as young as you. But
Sweet.
thank you.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, now I really like
now
him.
He knows all the right things to say.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Now the organization has over 5,000 customers.
Yeah.
And you have provided loans to over 2,000?
Yeah, we did an impact report because I have to go to D.C. in a couple of days to sit on a panel to talk about small dollar loans. Mm-hmm. And, I was looking at the numbers in dollar size and amount. We did, we're loan portfolio now is about 4.5 million. So we did, in 2021, we did about 3.4 million in loans to low-income individuals as well as
What's the average
small
size?
businesses.
What's the average size of a loan?
If you're going on the consumer side, then the average size loan is about up to $2,500, anywhere from $325 up to up to $2,500.
Yeah, they just don't give those kind of loans anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of times the banks feel like it's not really profitable, and then it's tedious. It's tedious.
Mm-hmm.
It is tedious work. It's not easy because we have to do a lot of tracking and a lot of reporting.
Mm-hmm.
And so
for a small amount.
We've kind of turned to some portfolio managers to make sure that our portfolio quality is there and that it's attractive to our bank partners as well.
How do you get paid?
Well, I'm an employee, so I'm the
No,
the
I mean,
president.
how does your company get paid?
Oh, we do have
interest.
Fee. Yeah, we have fee income. We do have an origination fee. In order for us to be sustainable as a nonprofit, we have to have some income generating activities.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have an ATM machine. We have a small surcharge on that. We're acquire a transaction so that you can't deposit into it, but you can access capital. We work cash and checks. And so we had a fee on the check cash, but then we couldn't do the bank. We couldn't do that because that would conflict with. It'd be a conflict. So we had to stop that service. But it just providing our basic financial services, notary public, doing and just our fee income from our loans. Because we had our loans. We make a loan. It's a 10% origination fee, which allows us to be.
So
able
what's
to
the
have that income.
criteria to get a loan for you?
You have to show the ability to repay the loan. So you have to have a job. If you have a job and you can repay the loan, then
What if somebody wants to start a new business?
If they want to start a new business, they come see us, and then we can provide them with some technical assistance to see where they are in the process and what
Help
we need
them
to
do a
do.
business
Because
plan.
sometimes there are different stages. If you startup, you may need to know, how do I go get a business license? Where do I go to get a what does the LLC? What is a C corp? What's a S corp? These different things we have to work through and help them understand.
So if they come in the front door, is that how they do it? They just come in the
just
front
walk
door,
in.
and then there's somebody lovely and friendly to meet them and hold their hand.
Yeah.
So
now I'm not at every location at the when they're
well, you're
there,
not there, but you've got people.
I'm at a location, but because we have multiple
How many locations?
We have 3 locations now. One is in we were fortunate enough to purchase a old bank building, and so we purchased an old Bank of America building, and we wanted to look like a financial institution, so we set it all up, decked it all out like a bank, because the community members, there are no brick and mortars in the community, and it's unbanked.
Where
community.
is it?
It's in 4103 East Broadway Street, North Little Rock.
I love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so and now on the corner of 12th and
4th and Broadway. Is that where?
4103 East Broadway. It's in Rose City.
Oh, it's in Rose City.
Yeah,
That Broadway.
right
That
there.
end of Broadway.
It's in the Rose City Shopping Center.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Okay.
right there.
And
There
then where's
used to be
the other one?
The other one is there's a repurposed shipping container, because that's where we were right beside the Barber College. We wanted to use a place-based strategy.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so we used a repurposed shipping container. It was just going to be a little loan factory, so we didn't need anything fancy. We needed somewhere that we can operate, put a few employees, set up our loan program, and then make loans.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to use funding from a grant that we received from the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation to purchase software to go online and be online, because we serve Pulaski County and Saline County. So, of course, to reach our whole target market, then we needed to be accessible online, and that's where we do it now.
So you
The whole
can do
process
loans online?
Yeah, when the pandemic hit, we already had everything in place, so we were able to do like 800 loans, a little bit over 860 some loans during the 2020, and shore up the community.
Describe your day to me.
My day,
Uh-huh.
it's a lot going on. Like when I leave here, I got stuff. I got a lot to do. But I mean, what I do is I go to the bar. I wear many hats. I do.
Uh-huh.
And then to whom much is given, much is required. I do understand that, and it's
that's
a humbling
nice.
it's a humbling thing for me. So I'm leaving here. I'm going to the Barber College, and just so, because we have office space there for People Trust, then I can walk into People Trust and check and see how things are going as well. I have a staff. We're a staff of 10 with People Trust. So we had 10 with People Trust, and we have 8 employees with Washington Barber College. So between my staff, I lean on my staff a lot to help me with, being able to do everything, compliance, as well as talking to customers and things like that.
I didn't realize till I watched one of the presidential debates, and I heard Bloomberg say something about we don't want to keep giving low-income people money. We want to give them tools, and one of the things that they don't have are banks in their neighborhoods, and so they don't have relationships with. I had never ever thought about it, and yours, like you said, and I understand why banks don't want to. They don't want to get robbed. you know. But
Well, that ain't, I would say I would say that it's not profitable.
and it's not profitable.
You know,
both
it's
of
not
those
profitable.
things.
Yeah, both of those things. I would say that because,
There's no money down there. Why do you want to go down there?
Yeah, exactly. So that's they follow the money.
That's right. So I understand. But what you're doing is the perfect type of bank in those neighborhoods.
Because it's not a bank.
Because it's not a bank. Because it provide you get a relationship with a banker that can give you money that can lift you out of poverty. That's what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
Is that it's more about relationships with bankers who teach you financial literacy and give you opportunities to lift yourself out of poverty through small loans where you can start small businesses.
Yeah, it's access to capital.
Access to capital.
Access to credit. And credit,
And there's no money there. You can't get robbed.
Right. And the thing, well, here's the thing. Of course, if you have a lack of investment and you have, communities that have, haven't had access to federal programs due to not having mechanisms on the ground. So that's very important for low-income communities to have mechanisms on the ground that can deal with the government, that can, CDFIs, that can talk to state and local government and help be an intermediary for critical resources that wouldn't otherwise reach these communities. And so because these communities have went so long without having that, then they just fall deeper and deeper into poverty, and violent crime is directly and also health disparity, health issues as well, directly tied to poverty. And so whenever you have these concentrated areas of poverty, then that's where you experience a lot of the
So
things
how,
that we read about.
I did hear you talk a little bit about that. You were talking about financial literacy, healthy diets, critical thinking. Don't go to jail and stuff. So are you teaching all of that too?
Well, we provide financial education. Now, one thing about financial education people need to understand is it does touch every part of your life. So it's not just, we talk about the financial psychology, as to how money scripts are created, how, understanding, your credit score, budgeting, savings, investing, things of that nature. Just kind of, it covers every area of your life. So when we have financial education workshops where we provide one-on-one financial education, we can take a deep dive into that person's life and see what the life circumstance is, and then at that point, meet them where they are.
I watched your speech, and Gray, put this on the website. It's wrfoundation.org. It's
WR Foundation.
I'll give it to you. It's Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation. And I watched your speech you gave last night. And the very beginning of the speech, it struck a chord with me. I don't know if you remember this, but you started off with going, I've heard people say things like, why are poor people lazy? Why do poor people spend money on things they shouldn't be spending money on?
Yeah.
Why? I can't remember them all, but I have to confess, I have said and thought all of that.
Really? Yeah.
Yes, she has.
I have. I mean, I can be critical sometimes of even, I've even some people that I'm close to go, well, I'm not going to take that job because it's below what I think I should have. And I'm like, just get a job.
Yeah.
Who cares? So anyway, I totally listened to all of that and thought,
Awesome.
I have been guilty of some of that. And so I think everybody should go and listen to it. But at the very end of it, you told the story of 4 people.
Oh.
Do you remember?
Yeah. Story of somebody.
The story of
Everybody.
Everybody?
Somebody. Nobody.
Anybody. Yeah.
Oh.
Have you heard this before,
No,
Gray?
that's clever, though.
Okay, I knew you wouldn't be able to remember it all, so I wrote it down. And I'm going to have you read it
All
for
right.
everybody. Here it
Okay.
is.
All right.
It's right at the top there.
Okay.
I just love this.
So there was an important job to do, and everybody was asked to do it. Everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody would have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody would do it, but nobody realized that anybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Isn't that good?
It's clever.
It's so clever.
It's true, though. I mean,
yep. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. I was like, dang, I get that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say this about poor people.
Here it comes.
And not just poor people, even people I know, everybody.
Yeah.
Stay married. It is proven fact that if you continue to jump from relationship to relationship, it will keep you from reaching some of your...
But even then, that's a resource you have to keep it together.
What?
Marriage.
Well, no finance, no romance.
Yeah. I mean, money problems are a big reason why marriages
Absolutely.
end. Sometimes you just need therapy, and who can afford that? You know.
But sometimes, and I mean, I have friends who have done this, who just go, well, that got tough, I'm getting out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and tough is fair.
And you know, I just think we're too quick sometimes to not stick through that. And so you're like, well, they shouldn't have done that to me. And so, you know, my ego gets in the way.
Yeah.
But if you really want to build generational wealth,
Yes.
try to stay married if you can.
Two is better than
It's
one.
cheaper. Two is better than one. It's cheaper to go to counseling than it is to get divorced.
Yeah.
And it's good for your kids.
Absolutely.
It creates that generational wealth that we've been talking
Yes,
about, because you're
absolutely.
not splitting it up and then dad's married to somebody else and then he dies and that girl gets all the money.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one. You know, and there's just some simple things that I think people can do, you know, like get to work on time.
Yeah.
That I think, you know, I'm amazed how many people I have to tell them that they have to come to work on time.
Yeah. Well, you know, labor force is, you know, taking a hit, you know, with the pandemic and
But prior
you know,
to
a lot of
that,
stuff. Yeah.
college graduates
Yeah.
come to work for me, and I go, you know, you got to come to work on time, and you
Yeah.
can't be stoned. And they're like, oh, really?
Well, you can't teach work ethic. You know, you got to. I mean, you know, you have to kind of have that work ethic.
How do you teach that, though?
Well, I mean,
Simple
it has something
things.
has to be in, you know.
No, I think you can, because I teach that to people all the time, and they're like, oh, like crazy. And
Yeah.
I bet you do, too.
I
and
do, at the
I'm
Barber
just
College.
going to
So
say.
I retract that.
I know,
I retract
right?
that.
You're teaching
I
it all the
retract
time.
I teach it all the time. I do.
So I do think that it's parents' responsibility
Yes.
to teach their children good work ethic, get to work on time, responsibilities, all
Absolutely.
those things that you were saying.
Absolutely.
So I have just loved talking to you. What do you want your listeners? So let's just recap what he says.
Okay.
The trajectory of his young adulthood. UALR, New York, barber school, loan from UALR to open his own barber shop, another loan to open the Washington Barber School from a friend, a landlord, which they always say in the SBA, your best place to borrow money is from a friend or family.
Yeah.
The People and then the People Trust Loan Fund was certified by the CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, in 2016, and that to me was serendipity because you found out about it through your uncle.
Yeah, I did.
So listen to life is what I get out of
Yes.
your life, is that you've been a really good listener and everything.
Yes.
So what do you want our listeners to take away from this interview today?
Well, I want the listeners to be aware that their, you know, community development financial institutions are critical organizations in your community. And if you have one, you know, if you don't know them, get to know them, find out, because, you know, they can provide access to capital, access to credit and financial products and services, developmental services, financial education, technical assistance if you're starting your small business. And then also, you know, CDFIs are critical to the state as well, because they can work with the state to help the state to be able to deploy critical resources to hard to penetrate communities and also communities that lack investment. Banks, you know, are partners of CDFIs. We have several bank partners. To name a few: First National Bank, big supporters of ours. First Horizon Bank, Bank of Little Rock. Who else? Regions Bank. Regions Bank is big. They just they did a grant for us to be able to, you know, support our work as well. And Home Bank of Arkansas, you know, was one of the first banks that took a chance and gave us our first investment to be able to make small loans as well. So, you know, and those I may have failed to mention because we have several partners. We were awarded a Google grant grow with Google Grant to provide loans to women-owned, minority-owned small businesses. One thing about it is we love everybody. We don't discriminate, race, color, creed, everybody. There are low-income people in every race, in every, neighborhood. So we want to make sure that it's inclusive, it's diverse, that there's equity here in Arkansas. Love it.
Any advice for young people caught in the cycle of poverty?
Come see us. Come visit one of our locations, 4103 East Broadway Street in North Little Rock and Rose City. Come to 5300 West 65th Street in Little Rock, Arkansas. Get a career, build a foundation for yourself, get banked.
Get banked. Love it. Loved meeting with you.
Get banked.
I love meeting with you. Here's your gift, U.S. and Arkansas flag. I should have put New York in there, I guess.
Thank you.
That's a desk set. Every banker needs a desk set. In addition, every banker needs a lapel pin with the U.S. and Arkansas state flag.
Look
you can't be a banker without a lapel pin.
I appreciate it.
You probably
Thank
already
you so
have
much.
one.
Well, hey, you know what? Now I got two.
There you go. I just want to say in closing to our readers, that's not right. I just want to say in closing. Yeah, I know, right? Maybe I was thinking about my glasses. I don't know, readers. They're driving me nuts. I just want to say in closing to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is will help you up your independence, your business, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.